Hi there, everybody. So I'm thrilled to have on today Sheenika Gandhi. She is a leader of marketing, business development, and diversity initiatives at Greenberg Glusker. Sheenika is a powerhouse in the legal marketing field. Her exceptional projects span from integrated thought leadership strategies to business development coaching programs. A key player in various cultural nonprofit organizations, Sheenika has had chaired roles for the Young Janes of America and Young Jane Professionals, among many others. With her deep involvement in the Legal Marketing Association, Sheenika is both a community leader and a trusted professional. Sheenika, welcome.
Thank you, Christian. Excited to be here.
Absolutely. So let's kick things off with a look into your past. I'd love to learn a little bit more about those early years, what it was like for you growing up. Where did you grow up, and what did you go to school for? What some of the influences were? So I'd love to hear about your past there first.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's always fun to reminisce and go down memory lane. I actually am a California girl. I grew up in Orange County. I actually was born in Los Angeles and Culver City. And my parents, as LA was growing, they wanted to go to a more quieter neighborhood, if suburban life, if you will. So we moved down to Orange County, which is not too far away, an hour south of LA. And yeah, I grew up in different cities in Orange County, moved around a little bit as my parents started to work more. My dad's accounting business started to take off. So then we ended up buying a nice home in North Orange County. And I went to school in Cyprus, which is actually a magnet school, Oxford Academy, really great experience there. And then I went to law school in San Diego. I went to undergrad at University of San Diego. So I really haven't spent most of my time here in Southern California.
Very good. Well, I love California. I just got back from an extended road trip that started in that same area, and then we ended up driving up to San Francisco. So really, really beautiful area. Well,
Yeah.
thank you, so much for sharing that background. So you had mentioned that you went to law school, and from what I understand, you got your license. However, decided to pivot and move into legal marketing. Tell us about that decision. What did your parents think about that decision as well? And walk us through how you came to that conclusion.
Yeah, thank you for the question and for mentioning my parents, because that is a really big piece of decision making in my life. When I'm of Indian background, South Asian background, and it's very important in our culture to the respect for our parents, taking in account their viewpoints, respecting our elders. And so it's really interesting the amount of influence that they've had in my life. And so I have always, had to also unpack this thing of like, okay, I want to impress my parents. I want to make sure that they're proud of me. And so the journey to law school, right? What's interesting is when you're growing up as a South Asian kid, your avenues of career are basically a doctor, engineer, or lawyer. And this is a joke that's very well known in the South Asian culture. And so as I was thinking about those types of careers when I was in high school, I realized very early on I didn't like math. I wasn't good at it. And science really also same feelings. So I really loved English and history and political science. And so the law just was a natural path for me. And so I went to law school, and during law school, I enjoyed every bit of it. It was the hardest that I've ever worked in my life. It taught me so many skills in terms of just being confident, negotiation skills, just foundational principles that I really came into my own in terms of my personality. And so, but while I was in law school and I had several internships, it wasn't clicking. Like you feel like with your career, it's a little bit of dating, right? You have to figure out like, there has to be a click. You have to be passionate about it. I didn't realize that at that time. I just thought, okay, I'm going to go down this path, and it sort of set out for me. And so when I graduated law school, I was really just trying to get the grades to graduate. I wasn't really thinking about, okay, how is this going to look in the future? And so after I graduated, I moved back home being a first, I'm the first in my family to go to law school. And so I, of course, have law school loans. I still do. And I'm very open about that. And it's something that I had to make that decision. I have to go and move back home and, save money and be able to financially support myself. So as I was looking for law firm positions, whether they were, I was definitely overqualified for, underqualified for, and it was 2011. It was not a great time. I started to think about, okay, what more can I do with my degree? And when I was an undergrad, I had a few on-campus jobs. I worked in the technology department. I majored in business. I had an inclination for my marketing classes. And I thought, okay, it would be really interesting to see what other types of positions are out there. Well, I ended up stumbling upon on Craigslist of all places. I never thought I would find a job description on Craigslist, and it was for a business development coordinator, website coordinator role. This very prominent law firm in Orange County was looking for someone to come in and project manage a launch of a new website. And I thought, wow, this job description actually speaks to me. It's a combination of business, law, and technology, and I'm good at all of those things. And so I applied, and that's how I started my career in legal marketing. And I stayed there for 5 years, and I really built the digital marketing for that firm. That firm was not really on social media. We didn't really have an email marketing strategy. We had just launched this new website, so it's maximizing the functionality of the website. So all of the aspects of digital marketing, I was really ended up being a key team member in leading that. And so 5 years later, I had established myself in that industry.
Wow, what a great story. And who would have thought Craigslist is where this all
Yeah.
began?
Yeah.
Very interesting. But let me pause there. I want to go back a little bit further. So now that you have that perspective, you've settled into your role and where you're at in the legal and marketing field. Were there any signs of this, when you were growing up? I don't know, lemonade stands, fundraising initiatives, things in junior high that you can kind of look back and be like, oh yeah, I see where this kind of all came together.
Yeah, it's a great question. I didn't really have an inclination towards marketing, but I was always a leader in every aspect of my early years, whether I was in different clubs in high school. Like we had our international club and I was the president. Like I always had to be, I ran for student board elections in 8th grade and I was the president of our associate student body. And so there was always, I was always looking for those leadership roles. I always wanted to manage people, to work with people. And I didn't realize that at the time while I was doing all of those things, I partly just wanted to give back and be a community leader. I didn't really think that I could translate that into a potential career. And so I think that those leadership qualities have absolutely helped into figuring out my current career, because that is really what I spend a lot of my time doing is being a leader, not only in this industry, but this firm and with my team. And so those aspects of leadership in my early years, I noticed that I have, looking back now, I always went for the top, right? I always went for the president, the leader of any organization that I joined.
Sure, sure. And where did that come from? Is it just something in you? Was it something your parents instilled in you? Curious
Yeah.
if you have any insight into that.
This is a moment for self-reflection. I haven't really thought about that. I think it came from, yes, my dad is a very powerful influence in my life. He wears many hats. He owns his own accounting business, but he's also a photographer. He's a real estate broker. He just has all he does trust and estate. I mean, he has all of these aspects of him, and I always saw him leading the way and leading the path and doing things that outside of the box and things that people in our community generally weren't doing. And so I had always that influence in my life to pursue things that may be a little bit different. I think I had a lot of fear to pursue something that was different. And so coming back to what you had said earlier about what did my parents think about this transition, at first, I basically, just to get their support, I essentially said, oh, I'm only going to do this for a year or two. I'm getting my foot in the door. I'm working at a prominent law firm. Let's see where that takes me. I'll start to network and make my way up. And as the years moved on, I really loved what I was doing. And I think my passion started to show. And my parents would check in with me every, few months. They would be like, so where is this going? You just passed the bar. Like, don't you want to go practice? And so I had to do a lot of sort of self introspection and then prove to them and show them like, this actually has a potential. And I saw a path, a trajectory for myself that I could be the CMO one day at a law firm if I work hard enough and if I meet the right people.
Sure, sure. No, that's great, and thank you for indulging me in that self-reflection there.
Yeah.
So you've been at the marketing side for about 10 years or so now. Obviously, a lot has changed. A lot of things continue to change every day. There's something new. All the rage was ChatGPT, and then all of a sudden now trends, is here, and now that's taking over everything. What have you seen in terms of legal marketing change from when you first started to where things are at today?
Yeah, I think digital has really made a difference for law firms. When I started in legal marketing, digital marketing was no one was really doing a lot of social media. LinkedIn, I remember running LinkedIn sessions at my first firm for 100 of our attorneys, just talking about, okay, how to best maximize LinkedIn. And people were just like, what is this, right? It had been around for a while, but using it, when you go to law school, right, and having gone to law school, you don't learn about marketing and business development or client service, any of those practical skills that you need to really develop a business when you get to a law firm. And so we had to do a lot of that as part of my role. And that is what I do here at Greenberg Glusker, is a lot of that coaching. And so I've started to see a lot more focus on digital marketing, a lot more strategic thinking, using technology to find prospective clients. I think using AI like ChatGPT to make content more efficient and be able to produce more content. Really, we're marketing the brains of our attorneys and their expertise, the thought leadership. And so just putting a lot more time into that. The pandemic accelerated that a lot more too, where we only had digital. We only had the ability to do Zoom webinars, to write articles, to speak to reporters about what was happening and being on the cutting edge of that. So I'm just seeing a lot more of that in terms of technology and digital marketing. And that has just exploded since I first started.
Yeah, that's a great perspective, and it's impacting a lot of industries that I think some that maybe were a little behind the curve. I've really just put them front and center that they really have to be focusing on that now. So the listeners of this, a lot of them are working in marketing agencies, and some I know, in speaking with them, aspire to be moving maybe on the client side and becoming a CMO as well. I'm curious if you could provide any insights to those that would like to someday be in a similar seat to yours. What could you share with them about that journey you've been on that they could take away from this?
Yeah, I love that question because I actually was sitting on a CMO panel a month ago and we talked about these sort of like characteristics for success. And so I did a little bit of introspection in that way and try to think about what did I do in the last 10 years that has led me to this position. And there are a few things that came out of it. So one, I was always learning. I had a strong commitment to continuous growth. And I think that was just completely vital in my field, especially. I just, and what that means is I'm like immersing myself in educational events. And I am very active in our local, the Legal Marketing Association, which is a national organization for all legal marketing professionals. But not just in legal marketing, I'm also looking at, industry, like different industries. I'm looking at beyond legal and it, just always learning, going to workshops, reading articles, like listening to podcasts like yours. And in your daily commute, anything that just keeps you on top of the trends really does set you apart from the rest. I also always raise my hand for everything. So I was never afraid to embrace a new challenge. I volunteered for additional responsibilities beyond my job description. I knew that it was important for my personal and professional development to do that. And so even if it was like proofreading documents, I would still get exposure to those documents to help me understand those various aspects of marketing, whether it was budgeting, advertising, and it helped me to see how all those pieces fit together. So when you get to the top, you can then see how all of those pieces fit together and then drive strategy. A really big thing for me was trusting my intuition. I think we have that inner voice that tells you that, maybe you're not doing it right, or you're just like, it feels ambiguous. But I tried to, and we always have our data and our analytics and metrics to making informed decisions, which of course is critical. But I think placing some importance on that inner gut feeling and using that to help drive decisions, it was really important for me, and trusting my expertise. And so I had to push aside those feelings of like either inadequacy, or if I'm too young, or just maybe people think I don't have enough experience, whatever those were. And they arise, and I just battling through that and just harnessing confidence in every aspect, I think is really important. And I think that comes with just trusting your gut and then going for it, and you'll start to see success. And really the last piece of success for me was internally here, I treat everybody as if they're my own clients. So regardless of their position, I am providing personalized attention that like leads to this collaborative and inclusive environment. And so it's not just like, oh, I'm only doing, my strategy and coaching for my top rainmakers. No, I'm working with my first year associates who are just hungry and wanting to get out there and network and market. And so I'm working with everyone from the first years to your most senior partner. And I think that really helps to set you apart too, because that really shows that you're invested in the firm, and using being a solution focused CMO and a trusted advisor. I think that really sets you apart.
Wow. Yeah, really, really great advice there. Thank you for that. I love to always be learning. I love the treating everybody like a client, really, really smart. So I can see how you've taken that and applied it, and why you're at, where you're at today. So thank you for that. I do want to talk a little bit more now about the actual, position that you're in, and the company that you're in. Can you share a little bit more about, like, I know you had a role there and you were promoted into this role. Like, what now are you responsible for that maybe you weren't before? And tell me a little bit, I think just for context, also it'd be great to know a little bit about Greenberg Glusker, I'm sorry, and what type of focus you guys have there.
Yeah, absolutely. So Greenberg Glusker, we are a 100 attorney firm. We are a single office based in Century City, which is in Los Angeles. And we are a full service firm. So we actually service different practice areas from, entertainment, corporate, real estate, employment, intellectual property. We have a lot of clients. A lot of our clients are individuals, celebrities, high net worth individuals, but also companies, and really focus in the middle market, right? So middle market companies. And so it's a really interesting role, because I have to understand all of the practice areas, but also all of the industries that come along with it. So it's a challenging role in that sense, where I have to understand, we have 9 or 10 major practice areas, and understand all of their go-to market strategy, which I will tell you is different for every single practice group, because their client makeup is different, where they get their referrals are different. And so, and honing into that and adjusting strategy is probably what I work on the most, and the most challenging aspect of my job, but also the most rewarding, because when you start to see all of the work that you've put in come to fruition, I think that piece of it makes it really exciting. In terms of what I do all day, really, my main goal, aside from managing my rockstar team, I have 3 members of the marketing team who help me with all of the execution of strategy, whether it's your events, your sponsorships, public relations, all the website, all the digital marketing. I spend a lot of my time focusing on business development coaching. So I meet with about 30 attorneys every month to talk about their marketing plans and how to best execute them. I'm basically your coach, your accountability partner, however they want to see me as, and just help them, sort of move to the next step, figure out their next steps with their clients, referrals, prospects. And so that's on the business development side. And along the veins of business development, we are trying to embed in business development into all of the aspects that we're doing. So whether we are working on a public relations campaign or we're doing an event, we really try to put in the business development layer on. And so what that means is, who's coming to the event, who doesn't have a relationship within the firm? Can we put people together that makes sense? And then is there follow-up after? Can we send them an article? It's a lot of that, like strategizing on like, how do we create deeper relationships with people so that they think of us when they have a legal need? I also work on expanding our current client relationships. I think nurturing our existing client relationships is extremely important. We, do a lot of our client service is really important for us. We are, paying attention to our clients to see what events they're going to, what conferences they're going to, what charitable things that they want to support, and making sure that we're supporting them in their charitable initiatives. And so it's just these initiatives to solidify our connections and foster this long-term partnership with them. And that piece is really important for me this year. And then just generally as being, always operations and process is like a big thing for me. I love having streamlined operations and processes that help us, improve our response times and set clear expectations. And when a new attorney starts, making sure that they are completely supported and integrated into our firm, tracking our return on investment. I mean, these all require very strong operations and processes. So I spend a lot of my time doing that too.
Wow, that is a lot to digest, all the different practice areas, all the different industries. Sounds like a lot of work, but it sounds like you're doing a really great job at that. With that said, you are what I would probably consider like a more of a mid-sized firm, right? You're obviously competing against large firms that have more resources than what you have. You're also competing against smaller firms that maybe don't have the resources, but they might be able to charge lower fees because they're smaller. How do you kind of play in that middle area and differentiate yourself from the two?
Yeah, and I think you said it correctly, right? We compete on our first is client service, right? Because we're smaller, we're more nimble, we're agile, we're able to staff our matters and our transactions, our deals with maybe a one partner, one associate. And so that team of two understands everything about that client and that business, and they're extremely responsive. We pride ourselves on being responsive. I think, and large law firms obviously offer amazing resources too, but I think because you're in a larger law firm, maybe rates are higher, maybe not as responsive because they have so many clients they're servicing. I think that's where we try to differentiate ourselves is the client service, the responsiveness, and then providing this really interesting aspect of our firm where we're honest about what we do. We are a middle market. We don't, while we do represent some Fortune 500 companies, absolutely, but it's not our bread and butter, right? I think being honest about that and then marketing to those particular organizations, those associations that work in the middle market, that is how we are able to differentiate ourselves.
Yeah, that's smart. Obviously, bringing in new clients is the lifeblood of really what your organization or what your department needs to be doing. Curious, what are you seeing now as some of the more successful strategies in order to do that?
Yeah, the new clients, yeah, you're right. It's always difficult to bring in a new client. It's always easier to expand an existing client. Our focus has really been on having those in-person meetings. And I think I'm even encouraging our attorneys to fly to their client sites, and then once they're there, meet with prospective clients in that area. We're talking about going to different conferences, and we're talking international conferences, and so we're doing a lot of these everyone's sort of back in person, and we're taking advantage of that. A big focus on client entertainment, meeting our clients where they're at, but also bringing together similar groups of people. So whether it's going to, a Lakers game, taking advantage of the entertainment space that we're in here, and or things like, highlighting our fashion industry. We did this really cool event called Fashion Year Network, where we brought together several of our clients and just friends of the firm who women-owned businesses, and they were able to. We set up like sort of like a pop-up shops, and we invited all of our clients and referral friends, and they were able to shop women-owned businesses. I mean, just thinking of really creative events where we can bring similar-minded people together and just creating those relationships, creating the in-person feeling, and then just going from there and having that follow-up. I think that's really how the new clients come through. We also spend a lot of time on our referral sources. So we are part of several networking organizations that allow us to have our referral sources and their relationships keep them strong.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I love that. I think in working with a lot of the clients that we have, I think they've almost gotten too comfortable with the virtual and have forgotten about being able to jump on a plane and meet face to face and doing
Right.
client hospitality. So, and events in general, I think. So I love that you guys are back and using that as a big driver. I'm curious, obviously, if you have a relationship already, it's easy to kind of invite somebody to those things, but how do you just find somebody new that isn't really in anybody's network yet? I mean, are there specific strategies that you're using to, I don't know, cold call or cold email, or do you do anything like that to try to bring new people into the funnel, if you will?
Yeah, I would say we don't do a lot of that. It is definitely something that's on my mind, but what we try to do is work within the same networks we're already at. So I'll give you an example. If we're going to a conference and we know a certain group of people, but there are others that we want to meet, we'll try to advance, like we'll try to plan a dinner or a happy hour in advance of that conference or adjacent to the conference. Invite the people that we know, but then also maybe use LinkedIn, or if the email addresses are provided, invite them to those events too. So we try to operate in the who knows who, the several degrees out type of thing, because those warm leads are a lot easier to bring in. There are ways to do cold outreach, and we've had a few one or two successful projects where it's very technical, but our attorneys are monitoring who's being sued, like litigation reports. There's also like regulatory notices that could go out in a certain practice area, and so we're looking at those notices or those litigation reports, and then researching, okay, who's being sued or who's being delivered this notice, and then proactively reaching out to them via a letter or email. And we have brought in clients that way because we're able to, it's like a very niche area. We're able to sort of differentiate ourselves as someone who has like a lot of experience in that area. So when it's a really niche area, those cold calls seem to work. But just generally, we don't just, find anybody. We try to operate within the same, within a couple degrees, so that people know, they see Greenberg Glusker and they know us as an LA firm. And so it's a lot easier to engage in that way when they're familiar with us.
Sure, sure. Yeah, that makes sense. That's really smart. What are some of the KPIs that you're tasked with? What are you following, and how does that impact some of your decision making and strategic thinking?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time with our content. That is something that we have really spent significant time on in the last few years, frankly, since the pandemic. Our attorneys are very focused on writing articles, podcasts, and so we use different content distribution tools to help with that process, because you can create all this content and just sits on your website. You have to have a way to send out email and these distribution networks that we use. And so I spend time on the KPI side. I'm focused on looking at the analytics for our content to see what's working, what's not, what kind of reads do we get, what type of industries are reading. And then I also, on the email marketing side, we're looking at open rates and click-through rates, trying to, dive into like who's reading our content and can we give them more. And we weren't doing too many newsletters. So we're trying to repurpose the content that we're already producing and sending them out to the relevant mailing list. So we're doing an elevated, a strategy around that. And I think that is leading me to look at KPIs relating to email marketing and reads, because I can see that in the tools that we use.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's interesting. So, I know working with some of the clients that we have, some of them, work with law firms. I know some have mentioned to me they'd love to work with law firms. Yeah, I'm curious if you could share maybe some tips or lessons on how an agency might be able to navigate the legal industry.
Yeah, I would first say to really get involved in the Legal Marketing Association. It's not a plug in the sense that, I mean, I sit on various committees there, but frankly, that is how I find all of my business partners, whether it's public relations, marketing agencies, graphic design, all of that. I usually look towards my peers. And so I have a vast network of other CMOs and directors that we share information on, who did you use for your website or who do you use for PR. And so that's where I get most of my leads from in terms of who to reach out to. So I would really, if an agency is looking to network with law firms, that is where I would start, because that's where most of us spend our time and where we grab all of our referrals from.
Yeah, that's great insight.
Yeah.
I had not been aware of them before, so hopefully some
Yeah.
others will take that away. So you mentioned earlier you have a 3-person team. You shared a little bit about what each of them do. Are you looking to build that team out anymore? Do you feel like you kind of have what you need, or tell us a little bit about the plans for the team?
Don't we always want more people on our team?
That's a silly question, I guess, right?
No, I appreciate it though, because I would love to add more people to our team. I am cognizant that we are a middle-sized firm, and so I have to be cognizant of resources. And our ratio is actually very in line with we do. There's surveys out there about ratios of how many marketing staff we have to the number of attorneys that we have, and so we're at a 1:4 ratio at this point. And so I think that's a good one. And I think, but if I had to, drum up my wand, and I would love, a position on my team who would really help with a lot of the public relations and content marketing, because we are just, like I mentioned, just doing so much of that. And so I think if I had to wave my magic wand, I would love to add someone to my team to help me with that piece.
Sure. Well, the content engine is never ending. The more you feed it, the more it eats. So you're not alone there. You mentioned Legal Market Association and finding partners there. Are you working with any external partners now? In what capacity, if you are?
Yeah, absolutely. Because we operate on a very lean team here, I absolutely have to lean on my external business partners to help my role. So we actually work with 2 public relations consultants. We have business development coaching consultants who come in and run different trainings for us. We have a website designer and developer who helps us with all of our website initiatives. We have an external vendor who is sort of also helping us on with services too, in terms of our CRM and making sure that our CRM is healthy. So there's definitely a lot of work that I do with external service providers, because while we have the expertise to do it, most of the expertise to do it in-house, we just don't have the time and resources right now. So we do depend on our business partners.
Sure. And when you're looking at those partners, what are some attributes are you looking for when you're seeking out these partners?
That's a great question. One, I just really value them understanding our law firm and what our attorneys do. I think we're a little bit unique where we represent not just companies, but individuals, high net worth individuals, celebrities. And so the dynamic for marketing and public relations is very different when you're working with a different sectors of the market. So I really value when an agency can come in and really understand, where we spend our time, what we're doing, and knowing the types of law that we practice. So when we are presented with opportunities, that they understand that which attorney would make sense or where we want to focus on. Also, someone who thinks outside the box and is proactive with us. I am inundated every day with emails and requests, and what really sets some of the service providers that I work with is their ability to be proactive with me and say, this is what I think is a good opportunity. Here's who I think would be perfect for it. Like, can I go for it? And I say, yes, that's great. Like, that's in line with our strategy. Please go ahead and email them directly. Like, when someone comes to me with the solution, that really makes a difference and creates a deeper partnership in my view.
Yeah, that's really great advice. Thinking outside the box, having that proactivity. What else can they do to, build that client relationship, with you, and make that engagement meaningful? Is it those things that you just mentioned? Is there anything else that they should be thinking about?
I think this may sound really traditional, but because I'm local and this works, and a lot of the service partners that I work with are also local, I really value seeing them at other events and also going to have like one-on-one lunches with them, because that really helps to, they're taking time out of the day to understand me, to take time to understand our law firm. And so I really value that in-person relationship and not just having maybe a business relationship, but also a personal relationship. The strongest partners send, when I had my son last year, he's 13 months now. And the business partners who knew about that, they sent me, food and gifts, and just like, I'm not saying that I had to be showered with that stuff, but they really paid attention to like the personal aspects of my life and tuned into that and supported that in some way. And to me, that was really, really valuable and helped me to see like they valued me beyond just our business relationship, that they were invested in me personally too.
Yeah, really good advice. And again, I think people in this digital world sometimes have moved away and forgotten about that.
Right.
So I have one more question. You mentioned earlier about your continuously learning. You mentioned the Legal Marketing Association, but I'm curious from a marketing perspective, where do you go to stay on top of the trends and what's happening? Is it social media? Is it conferences? Is it books? Is it, where for you have you found you get most of your information from?
Yes, I think I get most of my information from social media, podcasts. I wish I could read more books. I'm not great about that, though if it's a really important topic. So recently I'm just trying to improve my skills as being a better manager, leader, supervisor, boss. And so I've been trying to read more about candor and thoughtful feedback, critical feedback, and how to give it. So there are some really good books about that. So I've been trying to force myself to read, but really podcasts, because I have a long commute. I moved farther away from LA during the pandemic. And so I have an hour and a half commute into the office these days. And so I'm just able to, bring up a podcast. In terms of marketing, I do focus a lot about the Legal Marketing Association, but my favorite non-legal is Neil Patel, NP Digital. He's fantastic. He's actually a personal family friend of mine. So aside from that, though, he does an amazing job, his entire team. I was just listening to a live webinar he did this morning on paid advertising. And so it's just like looking within legal is really important for me, because I like to see what other law firms are doing, because it just like makes sense for us, because a lot of the marketing strategies don't always apply to law firms, but I also try to really mix in some non-legal aspects too, because that helps me to open my mind a little bit and figure out, okay, is there anything from that I can then use and do something different that other law firms aren't?
Yeah, that's a great point. I think a good way to And this is to, keep your mind open and look for other new areas, not always just focus maybe on your industry, but keep an open mind and continuously learn. Sheenika, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. Where can people go to stay on top of all the great work you're doing?
Thank you. I love to connect on LinkedIn, so please add me on LinkedIn. Let me know that you found me here on this amazing podcast. And Christian, thank you so much for this opportunity, and thank you for reaching out.
You're welcome. All right. Thanks, Sheenika.
Thank you.